All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 20th, 2024 meeting of the Larimer County Planning Commission. I will call the meeting to order, and as we always do, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask you to stand and join us for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, it looks like it's blinking maybe.
All right, so we all have our agenda in front of us. Are there any amendments to the agenda? All right, great. And then our next item is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, February 21st, 2024. Have you all had an opportunity to review those? Are there any requested changes? And if not, I would accept a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from our February 21st, 2024 meeting.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Barrick?
Yes.
Gillette?
Yes.
Bess Johnson?
Yes.
Slutsky?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Duffy?
Yes.
Chair Choate.
Yes, thank you. Minutes are approved. All right, before we move into public comments, I'd like to just have an opportunity for the members of the Planning Commission to introduce ourselves. We are volunteers appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, and then we'll have staff introductions as well for those who are present. And I'd start right here, Mr. Duffy.
Good evening. My name is Connor Duffy. I've been on the Planning Committee almost 2 years now, and I reside in the Timnath area.
Good evening, I'm John Slutsky. I've been on the commission for 2 years, and I live in southeast Fort Collins.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cholet. I am a new planning commissioner member since December, and I live in Wellington, Colorado.
Hello, my name's Shelby King. I began on the commission last year, and I live in LaPorte.
Good evening. My name is Ann Best Johnson, and I live in the Windsor area, and this is my 6th year on the Planning Commission.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Rowe. I live in northwest Fort Collins, and I've been on the commission for 2.5 years.
Ms. Barrick?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jordana Barrick. I have been on the Planning Commission, I believe, for 4 years now, and I live north of Fort Collins. Thank you.
And my name is Bob Choate. I'm the current chair this year. This is my 6th year on the Planning Commission, and I live in the Stout neighborhood near Horsetooth Reservoir. I'd ask if Ms. Axmaker could introduce staff in attendance.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Jenny Axmaker. I am the planning manager. Joined with me this evening, we have Michael Whitley, our senior planner, as well as Leah Schneider from our health department. We have Stephen Rothwell from our engineering department. We also have Christine Luckeson from our county attorney's office, and she's helping with some tech support. Thank you very much, Christina. Joining us within our audience, we have David Pringle from engineering, as well as Justin Curry, another one of our planners. So we thank them for being with us tonight. And then I'm going to go over some procedural updates as well. We respectfully request that all members of the public silence their electronic devices. Please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedure instructions. We have some located on the wall right here. You can also find the agenda posted on our website for those of you joining us online at larimer.org/BOCC Commissioner-Meetings. For the hearing procedures tonight, please, for each discussion item, we'll begin with a presentation from county staff, followed by a presentation from the applicant with time for any clarifying questions from the commissioners. There will be an opportunity for any members of the public to address the commission with their comments on the matter. Both the applicant and county staff will have an opportunity to respond to any questions or concerns raised during public testimony. The commission will then ask any remaining questions of the applicant or staff before entering into deliberations and working towards a decision on the matter. During public comment, please wait to speak until recognized by the chair. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative. Please make all comments to the planning commissioners from the podium. If you need a portable mic, one is available. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and spell your name if it is unique. Please speak directly into the microphone so that the remote participants may hear you. For hybrid meeting attendees, you will be muted until you're recognized by the chair, and if you wish to speak or request that a consent item be removed, please use the raise your hand function on the Zoom control bar. Upon request, assisted listening devices are available for the hearing impaired. And tonight, I believe we have 3 consent items and 1 discussion item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Axmaker. Appreciate that. We will move into public comment. What we have right now is an opportunity for public comment on the county land use code regarding relevant land use matters, but not on anything that's on our agenda this evening. So if you'll have your opportunity for that. But is there anybody in the audience, first we'll say here in the room, that would like to provide public comment on land use items that are not on our agenda? And for those online, you can use the raise hand function to let us know you would like to make comments.
We have no hands raised.
All right, great. All right, so we will first start with tabled items from February 21st, 2024. I'll make clear I'm closing public comment there. Now we'll move on to table items from February 21st, 2024. Table to April 17th, 2024. Number 1, new cell tower at 520 Isaac Lane, special review file number 23 WCF0107. And we're just going to continue this one until our next meeting next month, correct? We don't have any presentation available for that yet. Is that accurate?
It is, yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any concerns about continuing that one till April 17th? I would accept a motion to continue.
Chair Choate, I move to continue file number 23 WCF0107 for the new cell tower at 520 Isaac Lane from until April 17th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. There's been moved and seconded to continue this one till April 17th. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Gillette,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Slutsky,
Yes.
Barrick,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Chair Choate.
Yes. All right, we'll hear that one next month. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is our consent agenda, our consent items. Consent items will not be discussed unless they are pulled from the consent agenda. And then we have a regular new business item, and we will hear them if that's the case. They can be pulled by any commissioner up here, or if any member of the public wants to provide public comment on these items, then you will not have that opportunity to do so unless you ask that it be pulled from the consent agenda. So again, you do not get to provide public comment on these items unless you ask that they are pulled from the consent agenda. And we have 3 items on the consent agenda. I'll read them off. The Neubauer Conservation Development, file number 22 Land 4225. The CLHS Enterprises LLC rezoning file number 23 zone 3556. And the Ask Land rezoning file number 23 zone 3565. First, are there any members of the Planning Commission who would like to pull these from the consent agenda and have a full public hearing?
I believe we missed one item. Did we get the CLH Enterprises?
I got the CLHS.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Any members of the Planning Commission want to pull any of these? Are there any members of the public who would like to provide public comment on these and have a full public hearing? If so, please raise your hand. All right, we have a member of the public who would like to provide public comment on that. So we'll go ahead and put that onto our, we're going to pull that from the consent agenda. And
which one is that?
that, oh, good call. Good question.
I'm here for you.
Sir, come on up, if you don't mind. Just state your name, please, and which item do you want to provide public comment on?
This is Kirby Duval, and I'd like to provide public comment on the Neubauer Conservation Development.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Axmaker, is it typical that we would add a removed consent agenda item to the beginning or the end of the discussion item agenda?
I believe it's up to the chair where you would like to add it to the agenda. I've seen it done both ways. Typically, probably to the beginning, but.
All right, let's do that.
Can we just check and make sure there's no one online that would like to
Oh, good. Thank you.
pull anything? We only have one attendee online, and it's an applicant, so I don't believe we have anyone wishing to pull an item
Okay,
online.
great. So we'll go ahead and add, remove item number 1, Neubauer Conservation Development, from the consent agenda, pull it there and add it to the beginning of the discussion items agenda. All right, do we have any presentation about any of the consent agenda items that we need to hear before we vote on the consent agenda?
I'll just note that we did get one additional comment letter on the Asklin rezoning, which I left on the dais. It came in very last minute, but it is the same person that provided comment earlier that was already included in the packet. It's just a second letter.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would accept a motion.
Chair Choate, I move to approve consent agenda items CLHS Enterprises LLC rezoning file number 23 ZONE 3556 and the Askelin rezoning file number 23 ZONE 3565 with as presented in our packets. And that the Neubauer Conservation Development file number 22 Land LAND 4225 be moved to the first discussion item.
Second that.
All right, a motion and a second to approve the amended consent agenda with Neubauer moved to the discussion items. Any discussion? I request a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Slutsky,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Bess Johnson,
Yes?
Duffy,
Yes.
Shalet,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Barrick,
Yes.
Chair Choate.
Yes. Thank you. That motion passes. The amended consent agenda is approved. All right, so we will go ahead and move into our new first item on our discussion items agenda, being the Neubauer Conservation Development File Number 22, Land 4225. Can we get a staff presentation on this one?
Chair, before we start, I had a couple of typos, errors. Can you put those on the record?
On the agenda?
No, in the packet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. page, here's page 115. Under that, picture of a culvert, it says highway, excuse me, it says Highway 34. And it should say 287, I think. Highway 34 is in the county.
Well, it goes pretty far through Larimer too.
It doesn't go to New Bottle.
Fair enough. All right.
And also on 134. Bullet number 3.
Can you please double check your microphone is turned on?
Red light or no light? Ooh. The red light is on?
Correct.
Oh, I've only been here 2 years. Bullet number 3 says that the right-of-way is in Berthoud. I believe that's not correct. Maybe LaPorte. And on the next page, it has, no, on bullet number 5, that same page, proposal lies within the Loveland Basin. I don't think that's right either.
All right. Appreciate it. We'll ask the staff to address those as they think is appropriate. Mr. Curry, is this yours?
It is, yes. Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. My name is Justin Curry, and I'm here to present on the New Bower Conservation Development. The New Bower Conservation Development is located northwest of the 287 and County Road 19 intersection, here in this area highlighted in blue. The applicant is requesting a conservation or land division conservation preliminary plat approval for a 5-lot subdivision, 4 residential lots and 1 residual lot. The current zoning is RR1, and there's some information on utilities and access. The water district would be West Fort Collins. The proposed lots will be provide wastewater by on-lot septic, and it's in the Poudre Fire Authority Fire District, and the access will be off of the new right-of-way off of County Road 19, and then the total area size is 50 acres. Conservation development is intended to ensure that residential development on large parcels is creatively designed to maintain the open character of rural areas, to encourage the ongoing use of land for agricultural purposes, and to protect and maintain natural environmentally sensitive areas while permitting development to allow zoning density. This is accomplished by clustering development on lots smaller than would otherwise be permitted and keeping the remainder of the site in residual land. And per the land use code, this development will be due to the no access to public sewer, and in the rural zoning districts, that will be a 50-50 conservation development. So 50% of the property of acreage can be used as developable land, and then another 50% has to be held in residual land, either left as open space or used as agricultural land. Again, to maintain that rural character in Larimer County. Community notifications. The notifications were sent to property owners within 500 feet of the project site. So a total of 71 notifications. And at the time of the staff report being created in tonight's hearing, no comments were received by staff. Some of the review criteria required per the land use code for preliminary plats are included here. I don't want to read all of it, but it's basically that the proposal complies with the use, the density, development design standards, Some engineering items such as roads, driveways, or location of driveways, utilities, drainage, and other public facilities. Provide evidence that show that the areas are proposed. Of the proposed subdivision that may involve natural hazards, including flood and wildfire, have been identified and addressed. This does not apply to this proposal. Provide evidence that a provision has been made for public sewage disposal, which in this case it has for on-site septic, and that as applicable, that provides proposed phasing for development of the subdivision, which does not apply to this. They're not proposing a phasing plan. And then the subdivision is consistent with the subdivision sketch plan, which is the first step in the subdivision review process, and this project meets that. In addition to that, there is some additional review criteria for this one, located in, being that it's located in the LaPorte plan area. And so there's some items here listed as well that the proposal will need to comply with, and the applicant has met those requirements as needed. That would not apply. Development service teams find that the proposed request meets the review criteria of Articles 6.3D and 6.65D of the Larimer County Land Use Code, and therefore recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of County Commissioners approval of the New Bower Conservation Development, subject to the conditions noted in the staff report. And those conditions are located below here as well. And with that, we have the suggested motion that, again, the Planning Commission recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the New Bower Conservation Development. And with that, the applicant and property owner here to answer any questions, and I can answer any questions that staff may have.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Curry? All right, is there someone from the applicant or their representative available? Come on up if you don't mind.
Yes.
And please state your names and for the record, and then, we've removed this from the consent agenda item because we have public comment. So if, you're welcome to wait for most of your presentation until hearing that if you want, but you can provide whatever presentation you'd like now.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Shelley Neubauer, and I do not like this mic. I'll stand back here. I'm happy to hear what my neighbors say. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments.
I'm Megan Keefe with Keefe Civil. I'm her engineer on this project, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right. Any initial questions for the applicant from the planning commissioners? All right. Go ahead and have a seat. We'll open up public comment.
Thanks.
Any one or more members who would like to speak on this matter, please come on up. And if you would, please restate your name for the record.
Yes, this is Kirby Duval, and I agree with Mike. That sounds funny.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate what they're trying to do, which is to keep the rural nature of the area. And that's really where my concern is. This has been kind of an agricultural area for a long period of time, and I've been there, in that area 25 years. So it has been an area that hasn't shown a lot of development other than that around Ideal Lane. And my concern with the project is how they're going to cluster the housing. If they cluster it to the south end of the property, then that will really affect myself, and I see some of my neighbors in the audience across County Road 19. We live to the east of that, and it not only would interfere with our view of the mountains, but a cluster in that area would also really change that area, as opposed to the north end where there is already clustered housing along Ideal Lane. So my comments are, I'd never seen a plot, and it's still not clear to me from the plot where exactly the houses would be and which would be the open area. And two, it's important that we conserve an open space because this is an agriculture area. And so, on the one hand, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but on the other hand, I just felt I needed some clarity about what is actually happening.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll ask the applicant and staff to address your comments,
Thank you.
your questions. Is there anyone else? Please state your name and address.
My name is Dean Cheely, and I live very close to the project. I don't have any problems with it, except for I don't want access down my road to the properties. They want to put a circle there where people could pull around as far as a cul-de-sac. I have a slight problem with that. I think there's some newer neighbors who have companies in the neighborhood now, and they might be pulling down to that. So am I correct in saying that the access for these properties would come off of, let's say, County Road 19? Is that what I'm saying, or?
Well, we'll have the applicant answer that and tell you exactly where your access is coming from.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with the development. I think it'd be okay. It looks like on the plan it leaves enough open space for just to have open space out there. There's not, like a lot of open space as far as everybody's building up there. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Mr. Chair, it would be nice if we knew where these folks lived.
Okay.
Just so we could kind of visualize it a little bit.
Is there any other member of the public who would like to provide comments on this one? Ms. Axmaker, if anybody comes online other than the applicant, let me know, but otherwise I'll move forward assuming there are none. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and I'll ask the applicant to come on up and address those comments, if you will, please.
Thank you for your comments. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Dean, my neighbor who just spoke, he lives not with me, we live on the same street, Ideal Drive. And Mr. Duvall, to answer your comment, the 4 lots, oops, that's okay. The 4 lots will be off of Ideal Lane, and after working with Justin Curry, the planner and engineer for the county, we kind of went back and forth on that. There we go. And ultimately, as land use code changes over the years, having those houses together closer to the new cul-de-sac there off of Ideal Drive would be the goal. The planned location of those houses would be right there off of that main cul-de-sac, but their building envelope ultimately ended up had to be the entire lot. Is that right, Megan, the engineer? Okay. So, and ultimately, I just want to note as well, I live on Ideal Drive. Yep, right there. And so, to build out any more properties on that, originally the county engineer had asked me that, but I live on that road, so I would cut myself, by building houses there, I would cut myself off from the rest of the land.
Miss,
which is,
I'll just ask you to direct your comments
Okay,
to us
sorry.
if you don't mind. It's just our standard procedure.
just like court. Not that I've ever been to court. So the putting those lots on the north end of the property, that's the same thing that the county engineer asked me, and the answer to that is I would cut off access to the rest of my property, which is the residual lot A, and I would have to literally cross a road to hang out with my horses in the residual 30 acres. So I think that's it. I think I've answered those questions.
Okay. Anything else to add?
No, everybody's been great to work with, and I certainly appreciate my neighbors' comments. And I'm not a developer; I live here as well, and the county is important to me as well as the neighborhood.
Are there any questions from the commissioners for the applicant? Go ahead.
There was mention of developing the residual area as a cottage, what is the term?
Cottage cluster.
That's the word. And could you talk a little bit about that? And it was also mentioned that that would be for low-income housing, and I wondered, to be
That is
frank,
incorrect.
how real that would be.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't mind telling you I'm out of money. So I need to develop the 4 lots and sell them. Ultimately, for me, the residual lot is right now a hayfield and pasture for my horses. I'm interested in the future, but also for the community. And I know like the cottage cluster isn't even an option as we stand now. I would use the term affordable housing, not low income, but also the conservation development, which is what we chose to do here, is really important to me to keep the rural setting of the acreage. So right now, that's the only plan I have, is to finish these 4 lots, and then kind of reassess my situation.
I think one of the, excuse me, one of the commenters talked about being concerned about having views blocked. And I was just wondering how, and if you had addressed that, if you knew where that lot was and you had thought about views.
So I think what he was speaking of, the lot 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the east side. They're pretty big, long lots, so I don't think there would be any issues with views. I'd also be willing to give him first right of refusal on those lots. Good deal. Anything else I can answer?
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions of staff? Or is there anything you want to add, Mr. Curie?
Yeah, I can also, as far as the clustering requirements, we require the lots be clustered, not necessarily relating to like the actual homes on those lots. Like she said, so these are very large lots, anywhere from 4.5 acres, and so they're required to meet the underlying zoning setbacks. But if someone wanted to have a house up here and just a long driveway, that's something that they could propose or put in their building permits. Those have to be necessarily right off the road. It's just they have this area to develop or keep as their yard. I believe there's also some comments about the end of Ideal Drive and like the cul-de-sac along here at the top, or end of Ideal Drive and into this residual lot area. So it may be hard to see in the ring, but this is a building envelope on the within that residual lot area that could be potentially have structures on in the future, whether that's some stuff related to the proposed or a potential agriculture use on the residual lot area. And so that if there were to be some structures built there in the future, if that's not guaranteed, there would need some sort of access here. And so we're having the applicant put in an easement there for if and when this building envelope is has structure, has a use on it, so that there's access off of Ideal Drive and access from there to but it will not be connecting from Ideal Drive through to this Wild Woman Way proposed right away there. There is an emergency access easement in there, but that's again just for emergency access in the event of emergency, and those accesses will be gated and locked and only be able to accessible through emergency services.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Curie based on that? All right, well, this is a discussion item. Is there any discussion? I'd also accept a motion.
In the absence of any discussion, I can make a motion here. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Neubauer Conservation Development File Number 22 Land 4225, subject to the conditions as outlined in our staff report.
A second?
All right, we have a motion and a second to recommend approval of this application to the Board of County Commissioners. Any further discussion? I'll just say I think it's comments were reasonable. I think it's well designed. It's a rural area, and we don't know what's going to go into that future area, but that'll be subject to some future application if it ever comes through. So I'm confident and comfortable moving forward with a recommendation of approval, and I'll be supporting that. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Bess Johnson,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Slutsky,
Yes.
Barrick,
Yes.
Chair Choate.
Yes. Motion is approved. Congratulations. All right, we'll move on to our next discussion item, being the Riverside, Colorado LLC rezoning, file number 23, zone 3520. Just to be clear, this is the rezone application. The next would be the special review and appeals. So, Mr. Whitley?
Yes. Good evening. I'm Michael Whitley with the Larimer County Planning staff. And there are two discussion items on your agenda this evening. So there's one for a rezoning and one for a special review. These applications are on the same property and they are interrelated. So I am going to give one presentation. There's plenty of opportunity for discussion of both applications, but I will, because they are interrelated, give one presentation. We will ask for two separate motions and two separate votes, but hopefully this kind of makes sense given the context of the project as a whole.
So, should we go ahead and call them both up together and then we do separate motions at the end?
That would be great, yes.
All right, so we'll do that. We're going to go ahead and call up both items. The Riverside, Colorado LLC rezoning file number 23 zone 3520 and also the Riverside, Colorado LLC special review and appeals file number 23 zone 3519. And we are going to run these together.
Yes. Again, I'm Michael Whitley, Larimer County Planning staff, and this is two different discussion items, one for a rezoning and one for a special review. You read the titles and the case numbers, so I will refrain from repeating that. But the rezoning request is a request to rezone a 1.23 acre parcel from O open to RC rural commercial. And then the special review request is a request for an expansion of an existing campground, and it does include several appeals to the maximum density allowed for a campground, appeals to the maximum or minimum tent and RV site sizes, appeal to the campground setback requirements, an appeal to a landscaping requirement with regards to trees, a road frontage requirement, and then also a landscape buffer. The applicant is Troy Jones of MTA Planning and Architecture. He is the applicant on both applications. And again, on both applications, the property owner is River Holdings LLC. So the subject property is a 1.23 acre parcel at 9940 West Highway 14, Bellevue. That's located on the north side of Highway 14, approximately 500 feet east of the intersection of Highway 14 and Poudre River Road. So you have the property highlighted. This is Poudre River Road right here, Highway 14. The Poudre River runs directly north of the subject property. So the Columbine Lodge Special Review was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on July 27, 2010. That special review granted approval for an existing non-conforming resort lodge RV park, and retail store, and it allowed for the expansion of the use to include tent camping and an office and retail space for a recreational business. In conjunction with the special review, the Board of County Commissioners granted appeals to a minimum size for a campground. At the time, there was a minimum acreage of 8 acres required to establish a campground. They also granted appeals to the access road width, and they granted an appeal to the campsite setback and also a comfort station requirement. The Combine Lodge Special Review limited campers to 35 people in 10 designated camping sites, and at the time, approximately more than a quarter of the property was in the flood fringe, and so the campsites were located outside of that flood fringe area. So there was a letter of map revision that was completed in 2012, and that removed the entire property from a flood hazard area. So there's no flood fringe, no floodway on the subject property. There was an amended special review that was approved by the Board of County Commissioners in 2019, and I'm currently projecting the approved site plan for that property, or for that special review. So what that amended special review did was it allowed for the relocation of 7 of the 10 camping spaces to the far north edge of the property to be immediately adjacent to the Poudre River. That special review did not change the number of campers that were allowed, and it did not change the number of campsites that were approved. So this property is zoned O, which stands for open, and until 2020, campgrounds were allowed in the open zoning district with special review approval, but the land use code was updated in 2020 and campgrounds were removed as an allowed use in this zoning district. Campgrounds are, however, allowed in the RC, Rural Commercial Zoning District, with special review approval. So the applicant currently has 4 applications that are under review. The subject rezoning that we're considering this evening, the special review that we're considering this evening. There's an amended plat that will be approved or denied administratively to consolidate parcels, because this actually consists of multiple parcels from the old Poudre City subdivision. And there's also a setback variance that will be approved or denied by the Board of County Commissioners, the Board of Adjustment. That will be a separate public hearing. So the setbacks that are under consideration by the Board of Adjustment are different from the setbacks that are specified for campgrounds that you're considering tonight. So this special review application seeks to add 2 units for rent within the existing building that's located here. This currently contains the store and a caretaker's unit. It would add 20 campsites for a total of 30 campsites. It would remove several mobile homes and replace them with cabins, and would also add 9 RV sites to be occupied by tiny homes on wheels. In total, there would be 49 overnight accommodation sites, kind of consisting of the campsites, the RV sites, the units within the building, etc. And occupancy of each of those sites would be limited to 2 individuals. So the applicant's project description describes the project as a glamping or glamour camping operation. So rather than having customers bring their own tents or RVs, the campground will actually provide tents and provide tiny homes that function as RVs, and people would actually rent the facilities that are already on the site. In addition, they would have, rather than individual fire pits, there would be 2 to 3 communal fire pits and 2 communal cooking areas that would be shared by guests. So there's also a lot of description in the project description about kind of they're going to offer catering, and they will offer a shuttle service and also coordinate carpooling. The idea behind the application that's been kind of reiterated several times through the review process is that this is intended to be kind of a cozy communal campground, as opposed to the traditional campground with kind of dispersed parking, dispersed campsites, more kind of private space. So there are review criteria for each of the elements of these applications. So there's review criteria for the rezoning that can be found on pages 288 to 290 of the packet. So briefly, the rezoning looks at compatibility with surrounding area, community need or public benefit, change of circumstances, adequate infrastructure, and impacts on the natural environment. Without getting into much detail, there's a lot of detail in these staff reports. I will kind of be fairly brief with my presentation, with the idea that we can circle back and get into whatever level of detail you'd care to based on questions you may have or questions maybe from the public. So staff does find that the request does comply with these criteria. This property is in the Poudre Park area, which is identified in the comprehensive plan as a rural center, and rural commercial zoning is it's a new zoning district that is intended to be used in rural centers when there's maybe a retail use or accommodations or something other than the typical single-family development you see in the rural areas. This is identified as an area that this would be appropriate, and the existing uses are actually the uses that are appropriate in the rural commercial zoning district. So we do not have any concerns with that proposed zoning. With regards to the special review, the review criteria can be found on pages 305 through 307. Basically, it looks at impacts on surrounding area, impacts on wildlife, traffic, access, etc. It looks for consideration of the referral agency comments, also consistency with the comprehensive plan, and consistency with any Section 3 or Article 3 use regulations. In this case, Article 3 use regulations include campground regulations. I will note, and again, without getting into a lot of detail, which we could get into, through questions and answers, there were some technical considerations with regard to the Department of Health and Environment. There's a little bit of uncertainty as to whether or not the existing septic system, which is not proposed to be upgraded, can accommodate the full use that is proposed. And so the Department of Health and Environment and the applicants have come to an agreement that this project would be phased. Phase 1 would include kind of the full use of the property minus 12 camping spaces. And so the idea is that the phase 1 will operate for a period of time. Data will be collected during phase 1, and then that data will be turned over to the Department of Health and Environment. The Department of Health and Environment will look to see, given the actual use, water and discharge, wastewater discharge, can the existing septic system accommodate the phase 2, the additional 12 camp spaces, or not? That'll be evaluated before the additional 12 camping spaces could be added. The Department of Health and Environment would have to make the determination either that this existing septic system is adequate or would need to be upgraded. With regards to the appeals, there are several appeals included in this request. We look for, would the appeal subvert the purpose of the standard of the code? Would it be detrimental to public health, safety, or property values? Is it the minimum action necessary? Would it involve an increased cost to the general public? And it would be consistent with the code. So again, a lot of detail in the staff report. Given the history of this property, that it's developed as a campground, the previous appeals that were granted by the Board of County Commissioners, the relatively small size of the property, also lack of public concern. Notice of this application and these hearings was provided. I've heard no comment, positive or negative, from the public, so there's presumably a lack of concern. And also kind of given the applicant's kind of goal of creating more of a communal space rather than kind of a dispersed, kind of everybody kind of doing stuff off on their own space, the Development Services team has concluded that we support the proposed appeals in their entirety. We do have findings for the rezoning. We find that it meets the applicable rezoning review criteria and also the general review criteria found in the Land Use Code. Same thing for the special review. We find that it meets the special review criteria along with the general review criteria, and we find that the appeals comply with the appeal review criteria. That's a fairly brief overview of my staff reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The applicants are also present.
Thank you very much. Any initial questions for staff? Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Whitley, could you restate again the information around the floodplain and flood fringe and clarify, are any of the new proposed development sites within the floodplain or flood fringe?
No. So, and let me go back to my report just to make sure I have the dates right. So there was a letter of map revision approved by the Corps of Engineers in 2012 that removed the entire property from the flood hazard area. So there is no flood fringe, no floodway on this property. So there's no flood hazard on this parcel.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Whitley, can you also, so you mentioned in your presentation that this area was either maybe in the comp plan, but was identified as being supportive of a rural commercial center. Is that, so is that some mapping that was done, or what are those characteristics, I guess?
Yes, so the, with the comprehensive plan was adopted in 2017, I believe, it for the very first time identified what they call rural centers, which are existing kind of nodes of commercial activity or greater development than, more dense development than typical. So these nodes included Poudre Park, which this property is a part of, Masonville, Rustic, Livermore, so kind of the Forks area. So in those rural centers, we also, we've identified, kind of existing nodes of either concentrations of residential that is greater, again, than typically found, or spots of commercial zoning where it may be appropriate for additional commercial development to serve maybe the area, so the immediate area, but then also the wider area to provide opportunities for additional commercial, additional accommodations, or other uses that would not typically be found in the rural residential or open zoning districts. So this is one of those areas identified, and this is, from staff's perspective, is actually staff's recommendation that they pursue rural commercial zoning as opposed to forestry, which would have also been a path forward. This seems to fit that very well.
Yeah, thank you. And then maybe just to follow on, so with this new rezoning, maybe I'm trying to understand kind of the what's allowed kind of by zoning, and then this is obviously, there's also was a special review that was required for this particular use. So with this new zoning, are there a lot of other uses that they can pursue without special review, or?
That's a good question. I actually don't know that off the top of my head. I could pull up the land use code if you'd care to see what other uses are possible in the zoning district. So my general recollection is that there are a lot of uses that do require special review, but there are other uses primarily aimed at rural and agricultural support uses that might be by site plan. Would you like me to pull up the code?
It might be helpful. I guess the reason I'm asking the question is that, I mean, it seems like the proposed, this is really a continuation or an expansion of what's currently there. And you mentioned that you didn't, there wasn't a lot of feedback from neighbors, and it seems to be very compatible in my mind. But I guess I do wonder kind of about other potential future pursuits that may be less compatible. So.
Certainly. I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute, pull up the code, and then we can kind of look at some of those uses.
Well, you know what, maybe we can go ahead while you're doing that and ask the applicant to come on up, unless there are any other questions for Mr. Whitley. Because I think that's valuable information. We can do that. Is there the applicant or their representative available? Come on up. And please state your name and
Hot mic.
stand way back.
Good evening. My name is Michael Jensen. I'm one of the owners of River Holdings. I'm here with my partner, Danny Grant, this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk about what I believe to be a very exciting project. I'll give a little bit of my background. I've been involved in practicing real estate in Fort Collins for almost 30 years now. I've been involved in nearly 20 downtown storefront redevelopments, re-envisioning and reimagining properties. I've been an owner of this property for 17 years. I purchased it for my mother to kind of bridge her gap into retirement. But I always knew that this would be a very exciting opportunity someday to do something very unique and different. And so I'm very excited to present this today with you, with Danny. I focus on the sticks and bricks sides of things, and I look for great operators. And I know that I've found one here in Danny with what she's done with Mishawaka and other projects. So I'll hand it over to her.
Thanks. So stay up here to help me. Danny Grant. I own Mishawaka Amphitheater as well as Chippers Lanes in Fort Collins and Broomfield and Greeley. And I'm also a CSU professor, so I'm the PowerPoint lady. I'll try and make it brief. I teach at the business school there. It's been an exciting project for us. I just want to say what a wonderful, succinct, coverage of this. It's a very complicated project. It's got a lot of moving parts, and staff has been incredible working through all these parts with us. It is really simply an extension of what was done before, but in a way, trying to better the situation, trying to be more mindful of the ecosystem, the river, the neighbors, and what's going on there. I've been at Mish for 14 years now, and neighbors have asked me for years if I would get involved with the project at Riverside, at Columbine, to help in those ways. And Mike and I have talked off and on for years about it, and when his mom was ready to move along to the next part of her life, we thought this is the moment that we can come in and really create some positive change and make a really fantastic opportunity for people recreating in the canyon, for canyon people who are living there who want to have more opportunity for lodging and cool things in their neighborhood. So that's where we are. And through COVID, there were a bunch of changes that we actually weren't even aware of. So when we came out of it, staff's been really incredible helping us understand what those changes were, how we can go forward to fix things for this project and make it work. So, and Troy Jones, I believe, is in the room somewhere. So when we get to the technical questions, we can probably forward those to him. He raised his hand. Good job. And with that, I'm just going to do a quick buzz through of a PowerPoint that I put together to kind of give you history and context and some information about the project. So we have 3 companies that will be involved there, and one of them is called Poudre Park Market, which is bringing a grocery store to the community there, which we're pretty excited about. Also a coffee cart, the Kind Bean, that's going to bring espresso and baked goods to the area as well. Can you go next? You all might recognize this guy from a long time ago. This is Robin Jones. I acquired the Mishawaka from him. This is the Coloradoan catching him in a very common situation with a neighbor complaining about the parking and the situations that's happening there. And I, 13, 14 years ago when I started the Mish, things were real different. And it was very difficult. The venue had a horrible reputation. The neighbors were incredibly distressed about it. And the authorities couldn't trust the place either. So it was a tough business to take over, and it was a mess. Turning point for Mishawaka was the Hyde Park fire. Through that calamity, that catastrophe, the neighborhood really came together, and I think the value of what Mishawaka brought as a community center, as a really important landmark in the area, really came up to the surface. And I think that's when we really kind of bridged the gap with the community. That right there, one of the art pieces at the Mish is a monument that was made from scrap metal of houses that burned to the ground in the canyon, and one of my staff people put that together from that. So that's that. We did survive that. There was a documentary put together about Long Live the Mish. That's a picture of the firefighters fighting from the deck. It was a pretty incredible moment to get through. And then on the backside of that, the building that we did with the community was really good. This is a long list of problems that we solved at the Mishawaka. Problems that we look to solve at Riverside are a lot of them cross over. A lot of them are new problems that we want to fix. The campground that was there didn't have a lot of security or oversight. It was, kind of an old school management style. And while, Becky and Roger were wonderful hosts, I think things got overrun there quite often. And I think that's why some of the neighbors had some issues. A lot of wandering through properties. My patrons at Mishawaka were often the people who were staying here, thus the neighborhood asking me to help. And so a lot of these things that I won't go through, we look to fix because we operate in a much different way at the Mishawaka and will at Riverside as well. Sustainability has been a really incredible thing. Mishawaka now owns 14 buses in a transportation company called Wide Open Adventure, and we use that to shuttle patrons. We'll be using that transportation company to also shuttle people at Riverside up to the Mishawaka, as well as to different sites in the canyon. So I look forward to creating an opportunity to reduce even more traffic in the canyon through that. This is what Mish looks like now. I don't know if you've been there recently, but it's definitely a different look than it used to have. And this is what a concert looks like now in the canyon. You'll notice that the traffic, that's a sold out show with 1,000 people in attendance, and the traffic and the roadways are pretty well managed at this point. We also have a philanthropic arm, Mishawaka Initiatives, that will be working on making sure that we keep our philanthropic ideas with the community. We do a lot with the Poudre Fire Authority. We do a lot with bringing people together for dinners at the Mission, that kind of thing, as well as a lot of other things. I couldn't get Paula and Hugh. They're doing a meeting tonight for the Poudre Fire Protection District, but Hugh is the fire chief up there, and Paula is his wife, and she helps run a lot of the community the community activities in the canyon, and just kind of putting together a list of, and I can share this presentation with you later if you'd like, but some of the things that we've done for the fire department, our decisions, community improvements, the vision, love, and concern that we have for the residents are really why we're involved in this, and so that's a great letter. I'll do the next one. Fritz Farmer has been there forever. If you saw on that plot, there was one little building that was like butted up against the plot. This is Fritz's property, and he's been a supporter. He's very excited about the new look of the place, and and I think he's looking forward to sometimes people not being in his backyard, in his window. So we'll take care of that. Alex Regner is the other side of the property. He's also a long-term neighbor, and he also is pretty excited about the changes. I think, with the development that we're doing in there, with the quality that's going to be there, I think it's going to be a positive impact on their properties as well, financially. We did a voluntary meeting to solicit comments in February of 2023. The agenda was to share the plans and answer questions and concerns, to meet with neighbors, take their ideas and their input and put that into the process of creating this project, and we have done that. We had over 70 people attend. Definitely people who were outside of the immediate area came as well. And we got a lot of ideas about how to to limit guests. The idea of driving in the campground only in limited hours came from that meeting. And then also allowing the residents to ride the Mish shuttle, giving credentials to Poudre Park residents, and doing discounts at the market for the residents so that they can get their milk and their bread without maybe some of the extra cost of doing that in the canyon, having a grocery store in the canyon. It's a cluster community style, eco-friendly, sustainable project with very low impact. And that's what I know the county wants to encourage, and that's what we're going to encourage too. A lot of communal cooking and eating, a central fire that's easy to manage and monitor to mitigate against accidents that could happen. And we also think this is going to be a crown jewel for the canyon. And this isn't just for Mish patrons. There's a lot of people who are interested in ecotourism. We are partnering with companies like Lyre Flies, which is a fly fishing company, Rocky Mountain Adventures, of whitewater rafting, Mio My Pie. If you've had that, that's going to be good. It's at the Kind Bean, and others, in order to, really kind of bring in not just the Mish people, but everybody in the canyon. I don't know if you noticed, but if you try and get a campsite in the canyon, you have to be online 6 months ahead of time at midnight. So we're hoping this provides some more opportunities for that, and you'll be able to book 2 years out if you really want to. This is more about sustainable glamping and cluster camping, which is my kind of gooey stuff I love. You can just pass through that. We actually have a really great plan for solar. It's really funding dependent. And speaking of funding, this has been a tough project for us to maintain. We submitted in May of '23. I think the first comments didn't come for 6 months, and that's not for lack of trying. That's because it's a hugely complicated project, and the staff here is really challenged. So we are really hoping to get the project completed. We're looking for some grace so that we can get our funds put in the right places. Trying to get the engineering plans and final permits and TCOs to be open in May for some people to come stay at the place. The Kind Bean is open on Saturday, grand opening. We did a survey actually to the general public, and we put that out through the Mishawaka, and we got a lot of comments and a lot of people participating in that. These are the hard copies here. It's still actually open. But what we found was we had about 489 total submissions. 431 of those were in support, so 88% of the people who commented on this were in favor. 153 of 157, or 98%, were favorable and positive. What? Go back.
Sorry.
I think I might have misstated that, Jenny. Anyway, but there were 157 comments that were favorable, excuse me. So some people submitted just their little check boxes, but 157 people actually wrote us long comments, which was really interesting for us, and 98% of them were positive, which was so encouraging. And that of the 80512 zip code that's in the general vicinity, 80% of them were favorable and positive, which also was super encouraging because we figured those are the people who might have issues with that. So 170 people said they're coming to the county commissioner meeting. I don't think that'll happen, but we'll see what's next. Oh, and this is just, you can stop there because this is some stuff for Troy if he gets asked some questions. So you could turn that off until there's more technical questions that I can't answer.
Good job.
Thanks. Anything, should we wait up here while you?
Are there any questions for the applicants, Ms. Grant and Mr. Jensen? We'll hear from public as well too, but go ahead, Mr. Slutsky.
Well, thank you for the presentation. It seems like they gave you a few hoops to jump through just reading through this. Seems to me like the septic is a big deal and how that progresses. And what Mr. Whitley said is, or what was in our packet was the number that flashed across the screen there that said that 2,000 gallons per day is sort of the line you can't cross. Mm-hmm. But that's not really true, is it? If it needs to support the new residents. So if you're at 2,000 or say 199, the new residents will push you over that line.
We don't think so. No? And from experience at the Mishawaka, dealing with this on a daily basis, mm-hmm. I have a lot of water data and a lot of water concern. We are changing all of the fixtures that have been there historically to low flow mm-hmm. fixtures, and we're pretty excited about the calculations that we see. And we will also be doing water conservation through practices and through also like having, how the place is set up. And we're pretty sure that if we monitor that, we're going to have enough room for the next people to come. And if we need to, we will be working hand in hand with the health department to figure out ways to make sure that that's right, because that's what we'll need to do.
Yeah, and the way that it's set up with the glamping, these are tents. Those don't have bathrooms, so showers. We have a shower house. So we have ADA shower house with 2 ADA stalls. We have 2 additional shower houses, 4 sinks. So all of the glamp ground, we'll be using that. Hence, the only water use is coming from 7 cabins and 9 tiny houses, as well as the main general store. So we feel like those numbers are actually going to be less than what we've used in the past, because historically we had 9 mobile homes here on the property, and those were year-round residents with 3 or 4 or often more occupants, unfortunately. So we believe that the water usage should actually decrease, which is why we came to the agreement that we would phase this, and believe that we'll prove through the phase 1 that a phase 2 is also viable.
think Troy wanted to respond.
I see that Troy Jones is raising his hand. Ms. Axmaker, can you?
He should be able to speak. He's
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add just a little bit of context of the phasing. I know we worked real hard back and forth with some conversations with the health department. And initially they said, well, if you can show something very similar to what you're proposing to do that had some data on how much sewage they use, then if you could show us 3 of those, then we could use those numbers. And there just really is, this is such a unique thing. There really isn't an example just like it. So after we got to talking to them more about it, they're like, well, if you can prove to us in the first season that a smaller number of overnight guests can satisfy the under 2,000 gallon a day threshold, that we need to stay under, enough to where we can, add the last phase 2 of the 12 additional glamps. We can prove that those numbers work. Then they'll support the kind of the phased approach. And we've done some pretty thorough calculations, assuming low flow fixtures, assuming which we're doing in every instance. What used to be a lot of really old toilets with a lot of people using really old sinks, and so forth, is all going to be state of the art, very low flow fixtures, and that's going to help quite a bit. But I have a calculation that I worked together with Leah and other folks in the health department, Chris Manley, and so forth, and they look at the calculations we did, and they're like, well, that sounds, like if you prove it to us, then sure. And we're pretty confident that our numbers are real strong and accurate on our calculations of how much sewage we will generate based on our operations.
That and shower timers.
Right. We'll make them jump in the river.
Go ahead.
A quick follow-up on that, Mr. Jones. In the presentation, you have to report to the health department in the first year, or is there a schedule that there's going to be? I assume you're going to have seasonal occupancy, high times during concerts, whatnot. Are the measurements taken at the highest point, and do you have to provide them over a schedule?
Troy's got that one.
Yeah, that's a great question, and yeah, that is what they want is our busiest 3 months in the high season, which would be the middle of the summer, June, July, and August, to collect that data. And what we're planning to do is have a very good log of exactly how many guests were overnights in which type of our units. Some of them might be glampers, some of them might be in our cabins, some of them might be in the tiny homes, and so. If we have a log that says how many of which kind of customer we had, and then a daily log of how much sewage did that generate, and we can show them after 3 months of the peak season where the numbers were, as long and our plan is to be well under the number that we need to be, so that that it'll be a no-brainer to add the next 12 or the last 12 glamps.
And I would also add to that, I think for further clarification, as a part of the 2010 special review, they required that we add 2 privy vaults, which are basically U.S. Forest Service style outhouses. That did get delayed because of the High Park fire. They gave us some grace to build that. However, it did get built in 2015, so there's 2 existing 1,500-gallon privies currently on site, so those are extracted and cleaned out as needed. And then overcoming, previous, if there was additional people on site, if we had a very busy summer, we would also bring porta potties sometimes in, and we'd be removing the sewage and septic that way.
Just out of curiosity, let's say that there's just no way to get around leaving it at the phase 1 number. Is the project still viable, or it's not like you have to close it all down?
Then.
Yeah.
No.
It's a great question. Yeah, we do believe that the project is viable without those 12. We think it's sustainable and able to do what it needs to do with those additional 12. And Obviously, we're creating a vision of how campers interact and how community interacts here. The only closest thing in Colorado that I've been able to find, if anyone's seen it, is in Lyons, Colorado. And they're, in my opinion, doing a very lackluster job. What's being brought here with bringing curated recreation, food, entertainment, rafting, hiking, kayaking, all the things we do outdoors. It really has all the magical ingredients to be pretty special. So we'd like to get as many people to enjoy it as we can.
So following up on that, I mean, is there an alternative where you actually do upgrade the on-lot septic, or is there just not room for it?
It's a very, very expensive upgrade because you become basically your own on-site sanitation district. So it's a $500,000 exercise.
Okay.
It probably becomes unfeasible.
And can I add to that? In 1997, the existing leach field was constructed. So in the lifespan of a leach field, it still has quite a few years available for it, and it's a pretty large leach field, and it is right in a central a lawn area down low on the property, and in the event that if the problem becomes that leach field reaches the end of its useful life, we could build one the same size that isn't old but is brand new, that would be able to handle the 2,000 gallons a day. But what Mr. Jensen was referring to is that if we go over 2,000 gallons a day, then the state has a different set of rules for how the leach field and the whole septic system would need to be, and it's really critical just to stay under 2,000 because we physically don't have enough room to make the state over 2,000 gallon a day set of rules work on this site.
Yeah, I'm glad you added that because I did, being familiar with this property for 17 years, this is not your typical dilapidated, scary septic leach field situation. This is, 30 years old, if that, 27. And it's in great condition. We've never had any problems with it. It's always performed as it's needed to, and we believe that it will continue to. And if there's improvements that need to be made to that, we would certainly replace it and upgrade it. But it should have 30 years of life, is our hope.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicants? All right. Go ahead and have a seat. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
I do want to go back to, before we start public comment, I want to go back to Mr. Whitley. You had some time to look at that?
Yes.
Show us something?
Alrighty. So I have, can you hear me?
I don't think it's on. There we go.
I think it is. Alrighty. So this is our land use code, and we have what's called a table of principal land uses. There is a column for the RC zoning district. So as you can see, these are the uses that are possible in the zoning district, and these letters denote what process is required. And there's a key up here. So anything that says site plan is a staff level review, but a review for compliance with full compliance with the code, including parking and access and all that sort of stuff. Anything other than by right or SP, site plan, requires some sort of public hearing, at least notice, if not hearing. So things that are allowed, and I think the specific question was what would be allowed without public hearing. So that would include things like a membership club or clubhouse, rafting business, indoor recreation, a riding stable. When we get down to retail, so general retail under 10,000 square feet, fleet services, which is kind of trucking, transportation related uses, parking lot or garage, truck stop, unlikely, kind of given the size of the property. When you go up to some other uses like office, you can have, oops. financial services, personal, okay, there we go. Professional office, site plan, professional, financial institutions, instructional facilities like yoga, what have you, personal services, massage, that sort of thing, taxes. So they tend to be, at the site plan level, relatively low impact. Indoor vet clinics, indoor vet hospitals, pretty much other than what we've talked about. So, well, there's all sorts of other things, but they tend to be the low impact things that would be site plan. Other uses that are possible with administrative special review are the higher impact uses, but it's not a full blown commercial district that you'd find, say, maybe in an urban area, but it does allow a variety of commercial uses.
Thanks.
So question, is this the very first RC zone property if this is approved?
It is the second.
The second, okay.
So, remind me, so the restaurant at Horsetooth on the west side of 38E, what is a Canyon Grill? So Canyon Grill
Horsetooth
was just
Tavern.
rezoned RC in the last several months. That was the very first one. This would be the second.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Unless there are other questions on that issue, I just wanted to also give Ms. Schneider an opportunity to chime in on the septic issues to the extent you had anything additional to add.
Sure, and sorry, my voice is on the verge of collapse, so we'll make this short. And just so everyone knows, we are trying to keep them below that 2,000 because if they had to make repairs, that's when we would kick into a state level system. And with our phasing, the way we were looking at this, just so you guys know, in the past, they had, the long-term rental setups for, residential use, and then they had the tents, but the tents were restricted to the vaulted restrooms that we have on site, so they didn't really contribute to a lot of the flows for those more permanent structures that were on the site. So this is kind of a test because everybody on site now will be allowed to use the comfort station that has the shower, the toilets, the running water. And then, but the vaulted restrooms will still remain there for access, so they'll still take some of the wastewater and still have to be hauled off. But it's really important that we get them to a level that they can reasonably operate at 2,000, because if we do have to do a repair, we can't go to a higher level unless it's a state-approved system. So that's why they're trying to do they were already motivated to do all the water conservation efforts and things like that, but this is extra motivating to stay within a county-issued septic permit.
Thank you very much. Okay, so unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and open this up to public comment. Is there anyone here in the room who would like to provide public comment on this application? Come on up and please tell us your name and address.
My name is Jan Guzwell, Gueswel. I live in Poudre Canyon. I'm about 1,000 feet from this event that we're all looking forward to. I've lived in the canyon for about 65 years. My husband's a native, so we know a lot of history about what's happening, and we think this is one of the most exciting things that's happened in Poudre Canyon for quite a while. We really do need a place to go. If you look into the map, you will see that you can buy gas and you can buy pop or whatever at Ted's place, and then you enter on Highway 14, and then there's nothing other than Mishawaka. I shouldn't say other than Mishawaka, but Mishawaka is a restaurant. They don't have gas. It's not a grocery store. So you have to go to the Rustic, which is 30 miles. And that's a lot. And so if you have, like my family's having a wedding, and we're looking for places for people to stay, and there's nothing in Fort Collins on North College. So there's really nothing from, I'm not going to count Old Town because there's some nice things there. But if you started from the railroad tracks and go north, there really isn't very much to offer people that are coming in to want to stay at a fairly nice, reasonable place. So they're going to offer you this, the neighbors, we're looking forward to coffee and having that kind of thing offered to us, or if we're short on coffee or a little coffee or an egg or milk, that I don't have to drive to LaPorte to do that. And then you add to that we have a history with Danny, and we know that she took Mishawaka into something that we all didn't like, to something that we are now enjoying. Go there for lunch, or I'm not a concert person. I'm too old for that, but she's turned it into something that is iconic. When I tell people where I live, I say I'm 3 miles from the Mish, and I'm not ashamed to say it. So we're excited, and I just want to give them a attaboy, attagirl, because I think it's going to really enhance our, not just Poudre Park, but I think it's going to help all of Lower Poudre Canyon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public who would like to provide comments?
Hello, my name is Natalie Volk. I live at 9985 Poudre Canyon Highway, which is the 2 lots right across the street from what is now Riverside. I've lived there for 15 years, and I'm really excited about this project. It already looks amazing, and I am excited to have my family come in and rent cabins, and we can go rafting, and I think it'll be a really great addition to the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else who would like to provide comment on this application?
And just a quick reminder for those online, please use the raise your hand function if you'd like to make comment.
No? All right. Going once, going twice. Public comment is closed. All right, thank you for your comments. Usually I would ask the applicant up to address public comment, but all of public comments were in support. So I guess I would ask if the planning commissioners have any questions specifically for staff or for the applicants.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Ms. Schneider. Where is the nearest public sewer?
That would be probably here in Fort Collins. It even ends in North College. So, yeah, and then I was thinking Shields and Willix area. So, very far from that.
Not even feasible. Thank you.
Correct.
Creating a really good record there. Go ahead.
Just one quick question, I don't know, for staff or the applicant really quickly, is you have 2 to 4 mobile homes on there currently. Are there current residents in those mobile homes, or have those residents moved off?
I will let the applicant answer that.
There were 9 mobile homes. They have all been removed. We worked with the tenants to help relocate them to new locations, incentivize them by refunding double their rent and their security deposit to help them find a new place to live. That was facilitated by Danny and her staff, and so there's currently no one residing at all on the site.
And neighbor to neighbor was amazing.
Yeah, we did have a lot of help from community partners.
Great, thank you.
So I have a quick question about the water right. I just saw that there was a, and I missed this the first time around, but there is a condition that there needs to be a change of water right. What's going on with that? Is that just an expansion of use, or?
Yeah, it was a part of Division of Water Resources conditions, just to add on some of those additional uses that weren't covered in their original water rights. So it's just a matter of filling out a form, and I believe they were already committed to that from our last comment round.
So you don't have any concerns about their ability to do it?
No,
Okay.
no, the Division of Water, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's been completed.
Okay, great. Any other questions? And if not, I'll ask if there's any discussion.
Chair Choate, I would like to compliment the applicant on the surrounding property owner meeting. As a planning commissioner, we have our packet. We review our packet before coming to the hearing, and we based our decisions on the materials that are presented, staff's presentation, your presentation, as well as what we hear from surrounding property owners. And I'm going to tell you, I was really nervous coming in tonight with the location of the two adjacent property owners, those across the highway. I didn't know what we were going to have tonight, but I'd like to commend you for reaching out to your neighbors well in advance and talking with individuals, because not everybody takes the opportunity to do an application and engage your neighbors. And so thank you very much, because it's made our hearing this evening palatable, as well as a good, building a good neighborhood where you are. And so thank you very much. And I had concerns about landscaping, and I know there's, fire danger. I also had concerns about setback, but you alleviated my concerns having done the engagement that you did ahead of time. So thank you very much.
I agree. I am pleasantly surprised with the application and everything that's in front of me, and I'm supportive of it, including the rezone and the special review and the appeals. I agree with staff. My concerns have been addressed. Now, not to cut off further discussion, but we have multiple motions that we need to make here, at least two. Do you have any recommended motions for us? I was trying to find those, but there are 409 pages in our packet.
So these are our recommendations. Excuse me. This slide being projected has our recommendation, and you can craft a motion around that recommendation if you care to.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, anyone care to make a motion?
Sure, Chair Choate, I will move to approve planning case 23 ZONE 3520 by Riverside, Colorado LLC for the rezoning for the reasons found in the staff report, as well as the recommendations and findings. I also move to approve 23 ZONE 3519 for Riverside, Colorado LLC for the special review and appeals, subject to the 14 conditions found in our packets, along with the recommendations and findings in the staff report.
I'm sorry, I'm just to interject. So we'll actually need you to recommend for approval.
Oh,
for
yes,
both of these. I'm
recommend
sorry
for
about that.
approval to send this to the Board of County Commissioners on both of those.
And can we use a single motion, as I would much prefer? All right, we're going to use a single motion.
Second.
All right. We have a motion to recommend approval of both the rezone and the special review, along with all the appeals, and a second on that motion. Is there any further discussion amongst the planning commissioners? Nope. I will request a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Schlett,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Barrick,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Bess Johnson,
Yes?
Slutsky,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Chair Choate.
Yes. Motion passes. Thanks so much. Congratulations on your application, and good luck at the Board of County Commissioners. I hope 170 people do not show up.
That would be a long.
Thank you so much.
All right. The next thing on our item is reports from staff. Do we have any reports from staff?
We don't have any reports, just that we're going to go into an executive session next, which is a bit unusual, and so the county attorney, Ms. Luckinson, has a little bit of guidance for us.
Thank you.
So we're going to be moving into an executive session. So if someone wants to, all you'll need to do is make a motion to move into an executive session, and then you'll read that agenda item that's highlighted, the addendum there, whoever makes the motion. And then if you could just make clear that we won't be returning into this room, there will be no decision being made, so there'll be no further record that needs to be made.
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission move into executive session to conference with the county attorney pursuant to the Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024B to discuss legal questions about Colorado Court of Appeals judgment dated September 1, 2022 in City of Thornton versus Larimer County, case number 21CA467, and to discuss legal questions about the scope of the 1041 permitting authority. No decision will be made in this meeting.
And I apologize, but can I ask, are we, do we have any sense as to how long this executive session is going to last? If we think it'll take some time, I might ask for a bathroom break.
15 minutes, 15.
Perfect.
But we can certainly take a break while we head over to the exec session.
Oh, I see. So it's in a different room.
Yeah, we'll be in a different room. We'll be in, which is Carter Lake. So we'll be leaving here. FCTV can call it a night.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Great. Motion and second to go into executive session for the reasons described. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Duffy,
Yes.
Bess Johnson,
Yes?
King,
Yes.
Slutsky,
Yes.
Charlotte,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barrick,
Yes.
Chair Choate.
Yes. So we are adjourned from our regular business meeting, and we're going to go into executive session.
And
Thanks, everybody.
Commissioner
Can I
Barrett,
ask a quick question? Yeah. Is there another Zoom link? for
there's a
that?
separate Zoom link, and Christina can send that to you if you don't have it in your email already.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get that over to you.
Yeah, I might as well get it done.